One of the things I like to do, whether it's personally or professionally, is follow people and talk to people and study people who have done things that I want to do, that I seek to achieve, whether it's in my personal life or professional life, and then just kind of learn. They all haven't done it perfectly. They wouldn't tell you that. But if you want to, be married for your entire life, right? Well, surround yourself and admire people who have been married for their entire lives. If you want to succeed in whatever your industry is, whether it's radio or plumbing or whatever it might be, it doesn't matter. Surround yourself with people, talk to people, meet people, find an inner circle of people who have had a tremendous amount of success or some success. Surround yourself with individuals, study people who have done what you want to do. It's not as difficult as it sounds. People get paralyzed because they just don't want to do it, but it's really not intended to be difficult. And when I look at this study here that was done, Nate Silver shared this. Nate is 538 Data Analytics, and he does a great job. Listen, he's a New York Times bestseller guy. He leans to the left, but he tries to be an honest pollster. Doesn't always work. He wasn't right about Trump, but whatever. He put this on X yesterday, and he shares here the liberal-conservative happiness gap persists across all demographics. And I'm not going to look at this chart and say, oh, yeah, those liberals, bunch of miserable SOBs. But no, because then I would not be living up to the point that conservatives generally are happier. The question I keep looking at is why. If I want to be happy, you might look at this poll and say, well, then you have to be conservative. That's not how I look at it. I believe that there are other things in your life that lead you to be a conservative, and they lead you then to happiness. It's not being a conservative that makes you happy. It's the way you lived your life that leads you to be a conservative. The happiness in your life, based on how you've lived your life, means you are more likely, not all the time, but more likely to be conservative. Trust me, I know plenty of angry conservatives. I can find them at any point in time. No doubt about it, right? But it's the chicken or the egg conversation. So here's the data. Nate Silver shares here that on a scale of 0 to 100, conservatives overall grade their happiness as a 68 out of 100. Liberals grade their happiness as a 53 out of 100. So it's a 15-point happiness gap between self-described conservatives and self-described liberals. Then gender. Conservative men, 69 out of 100. Liberal men, 56 out of 100. Women, conservatives, 66 out of 100, happiness on a scale of 0 to 100. And liberal women are a 51 out of 100. So liberal women thus far are the least happy group of the bunch. Racially speaking, the demographic, once again, conservatives are more happy than liberals are. For whites, for blacks, for Hispanics, and for Asians. What about age? Age, there is a gap here in age. And the younger you are, the less happy you are. Gen Z, born 1997 or later, they are the least happy. The silent generation, 1964 or earlier, are the most happy. But even within every single age group, there is about a 10 to 15 point gap between those who are self-described as conservative and those who are self-described as liberal. It's basically the same across every single age group. But the older you get, the more likely you are to be happy. The most miserable are young liberals. And that is something that Nate Silver writes about here in his analysis of this. The young liberals, those born 1997 or later, who are self-described liberals, are by far, of all the different demographic groups polled here, the least happy. Educationally, similar gap. And by the way, I'll add this as well. It's not like if you're somebody who didn't go to college, you're unhappy. That's not true. It's not true at all. But it is the same exact theme. Whether you went to high school or had no high school degree, You have some college, 4-year college or postgraduate degree. Same exact outcome where the gap between those who are conservative and those who are liberal is about the same when it comes to their happiness, with conservatives overwhelmingly being happier. Now, Nate Silver goes on the right here. There is a correlation as well between those who identify as religious. He says age and religion matter a lot. Religious people are happier, younger people are sadder. But the liberal-conservative gap outweighs almost all other characteristics except, he writes, for age. So for me, this is not about, I'm going to be a conservative because I want to be happy. That's not my interpretation of the poll here. My interpretation of the poll is that the way you live your life and the things that you do every day in your life and having a spiritual element to your life leads you to happiness. And then those characteristics lead you to more likely a conservative outlook on your politics of the day. And that's where the correlation works together. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us here on KCMO, because I want to open this up to you as well. John, go ahead.
I think in my experience, I find that people who are unhappy are worried about things they can't control. So therefore, I kind of go back to the concept of what the serenity prayer is, not necessarily biblical, but accepting the things you can't change, and then the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. That's
so that's where I'm at. I talk to friends. I'm like, why are you worried about that? Cows farting. Yeah. Whatever. Stop.
Yes. The cows farting. That's right. They were going to destroy the ozone layer. Yep, that's right. AOC was big on making sure we got rid of the farting cows with Bill Gates as well, right? 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And if I start reading the text line here, well, some of you are kind of proving my point. I think I've got many people who are maybe to my left very upset with the polling, saying the polling's a bunch of BS, you're a liar. Okay, you sound very happy, sir.
You're pissing me off that you're telling me I'm pissed off.
Stephen in Kansas City. Go ahead, Stephen. You're on KCMO.
Yeah, Pete, great topic. I hate to make this overtly political, but it's really hard not to. I'll give you the primary reason for the difference is that the Republicans and the conservatives seem to set attainable goals. Like if you ever see Olympic athletes, a lot of them have the vision board or whatever, and they write down all their attainable goals, and it's eminently satisfying. Like we just shut down the border in 150 days, zero illegals coming over the border. You feel good when you achieve your goal.
Well, hold on. Joe Biden would say he passed the Green New Deal. That was an attainable goal, and he got it done. So I'm not really with you here, but I'll give you another chance. Go ahead.
But it's never over. That's the problem with liberals. The Green New Deal is never complete. There's never any sense of finality or any sense of you're completing a larger goal. Like I know the big beautiful bill is going to be passed by July 4th. I'm going to be very mad if it's not. Yes, I will be unhappy, but I'm going to be very satisfied with life. I mean, it's not totally political, but it really is kind of an approach that conservatives seem to have. That I want to see certain things done by a certain time. I'm not going to be like Mayor Lucas and just kind of say, well, okay, the murders are down. Well, no, the murders are actually up, and we're just kind of playing around with statistics. It will never be solved because the mayor doesn't have goals, realistic goals that he can achieve.
He did he got into office and he said he wanted to get murders under 100, and obviously we haven't come close to that. So he's just shifted his goals as reality smacked him in the face a little bit there on that. I'm not sure I'm following or on board, but I see what you were going for there. Jake in Odessa, you're on KCMO. What's up, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, just off of people I know that, I'm pretty far to the right of the political spectrum, and I do have friends that are liberals. And the thing that I found is part of the reason why they're so unhappy is they always have to have a cause. And by that, I mean, they always have to, they have the attitude of they always have to be fighting something. Like there's always a boogeyman, basically, whether it be man-made climate change or what they like to call systemic racism or the patriarchy. Like there's always, they can never be content or happy. There's always something has to be wrong. And in their minds, they're the only ones that can fix it. They never seem to have a good idea about fixing anything. It's always, let's just break some windows on shop fronts or whatever and hold signs. But I mean, that's just my observation as to why there's such a gap in happiness between the two sides.
Thank you, Jake. I think you're hitting on something that even goes deeper. First off, there's a victim mentality, right, that is very prevalent on, I would lean it, obviously, to the Democrat side of the aisle. Now, there's victims on the right, too. Don't get me wrong. There are some people that just love playing the victim card. But generally speaking, being a victim is a popular mentality on the left side of the political aisle. So if you have to brand yourself and view yourself as a victim who has been screwed by your government, the man, society, whatever, you can't get ahead because of fill in the blank, well, naturally, you're not going to be that happy of a person, right? If you perceive yourself as someone who is not getting as much attention, as much love, can't get this job, can't get that, and it's all because of some identity that you wrap yourself in, then naturally you're not going to be all that happy of a person. The second part of what you mentioned there, like wrapping themselves around an issue like man-made climate change, to me that ties back as well to the lack of community that we have, and we're losing it every single day, partially because people are less religious, partially because we're just always on our screens. It's how we interact. We don't really hang out in person with people anymore, or not as much as we should, so we lose that sense of community. And naturally, as human beings, we want that. So where do you get it? Where do you get it, and who do you get it from? Not all conservatives, but it is more likely if you're a conservative, you're going to get that from something within your community. You're also more likely to be someone who's going to have, a lot of kids. You wrap that up in your schools, in your churches, things like that. If you're single or you don't have kids and you lean to the left, you're more likely to get that from your politics than you are something in your personal life that really is apolitical. And then if you're surrounding yourself with, individuals who are like-minded on this stuff, and it's all about like, woe is me, we're all getting screwed, climate change is going to kill us, there's no point in having kids anyway because we're all going to be underwater by 2050. Like, if that's how you live your life, I genuinely feel for you. Because one, it's not true, and two, gosh, you're missing out. You got one shot. You got one shot at this life. That's it. Do you realize how lucky we are right now to be sitting here as human beings on this planet in 2025? We have every single one of us, if you agree or disagree right now, you have hit the freaking lottery. You could have been an ant sitting in Africa getting stomped on. I mean, whatever. You realize you have hit the lottery. And to sit there every day and think about how bad you've got it, I mean, that is no way to live. 913-408-7957. We'll take your calls on this in the 9 o'clock hour as we roll through a Thursday. Keatsman Uncanceled is coming up at 10 o'clock. 924, good morning. Great to have you here on KCMO. Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled is coming up at 10 o'clock. All right, on the text line, we were just talking about this poll that just came out, and Nate Silver had it, 538, and it just showed that across basically all ages, all races, and both genders, I almost said all genders, shame on me, trying to make sure that we all are on the same page here, that there are two, conservatives find themselves much happier. And on the text line, Pete is preaching right now, and I'm here for it. I'm not trying to preach to anybody. I'm just literally saying, hey, let's have a conversation about this. In no way. That makes me cringe. I don't want to be perceived as preaching on anything. I'm just giving you my thoughts, but I'm more than happy and wanting to welcome your thoughts at 913-408-7957. This is good on the text line. Pete, some are not happy unless they're unhappy. Think about that. That's a good line, though.
Yes.
Some aren't happy unless they're not happy. You got to think about it for a second, but that is an outstanding text from a first-time texter on the text line. Brilliant right there.
And that can be couched in with I'm unhappy, but you're not paying attention. Educate yourself.
Yes.
Right?
That's true. That's true. So I think about this, and I continue. And Kate and I were talking about it last night. We were talking about how many people we know who are just not having kids, don't want to have kids. And I said to her, and we went back and forth on this when we were talking last night. And at that point, I'd had some J. Riegers, so we were feeling good and really just letting it rip. And I said to her, think about it. If you believe that you are on this earth for 75, 80, 85, 90 years, whatever it ends up being for you, if you're blessed, and you think that when it's all over, you're just like a speck of dust, right? That's it. Most people will never remember you. Maybe a couple of people remember who you are and you have some legacy. But if you just think that, hey, I'm here for 80 years and then it's all over and I'm gone, well, why would you do anything to sacrifice your time, sacrifice your money, sacrifice your happiness? Why would you do anything? Which, listen, we have 3 little girls, love them all to death. But I'll be honest, some days they make me happier than others, okay? It's just the lay of the land. That's how it goes. Why would you sacrifice those things in your life if you don't believe there's anything that comes out of it when you're gone? If you're just like, I've got to live my life to the fullest every day, me, I'm going to just do me, right? You do, and that's what we encourage.
Moo.
Yeah.
Me, moo.
Thank you, Cleaver. We encourage this like, just do you, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's
look
all
out for
you
number
need.
one.
Yeah, look out for number one. You do you. You know, on the female side, it's rah-rah girl power. And like, I've got 3 daughters. Yeah, rah-rah girl power. But to me, rah-rah girl power doesn't mean basically not having any kind of deep relationships, burying yourself in a Fortune 500 company, and having no legacy. Like that's not rah-rah girl power in my eyes. At least it's not what I'll teach my girls rah-rah girl power is. So if you believe that, though, then it makes sense that you would say, why would I sacrifice time and money and stress and headaches and kids and screaming and diapers when I've got 80 years to live it up? And at least to each of us, suddenly it starts to make some sense, right? If there's no higher power, then what's the point of any of it? And sadly, there's a lot of that's also going on right now as well. Our caller of the day, pretty sharp, pretty funny for early on a Thursday morning. Plus, what does Mayor Q have to say to Ollie Gates? All coming up next.